Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going right into the heart of home robotics. Specifically, we're talking about Samsung's Ballie Series 2 robot. That's the one that really turned heads at CES 2025. Remember a few years back when they had that really cute little rolling concept? Well, now it's grown up, it's become a lot more sophisticated, and it looks like it's actually ready to roll right into our home.
Literally right into our homes. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how Samsung has shifted gears. They've gone from showing off a really cool tech demo to creating a robot that's truly designed to be in our houses.
Yeah, so let's break this down a bit. What are some of the really big differences you notice, in terms of going from prototype to something practical?
I think that the biggest thing with Series 2 is function. The first Ballie was really cute. It was eye-catching for sure, but it was more about getting attention. This new version, it's all about practical stuff. It seems like Samsung really wants to show us how this technology can fit into our lives, not just be something that sits on a shelf and looks cool.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, okay, here's how this can actually work for you, instead of just look what our tech can do.
Right. And speaking of tech that works, let's talk about Ballie's brain power for a minute. All the articles that we read, they were all talking about some pretty big improvements to its AI, especially when it comes to recognizing objects. So what does that mean for what Ballie can actually do around the house?
Well, you can think of it like this. Ballie Series 2 doesn't just see objects anymore. It actually understands what it's looking at. And so that improved object recognition, when you combine that with spatial awareness, it means Ballie can navigate a home much more effectively, even if things, get moved around, so it's not going to bump into your furniture or get stuck in a corner because you rearranged the living room.
Exactly. It adapts. And that's just the beginning. The AI improvements also include human emotion detection.
Wait, hold on. Emotion detection. So we're talking about a robot that can actually read our moods.
Well, it's not exactly mind reading, but it's getting pretty close. It can analyze your facial expressions, your tone of voice, even your body language to figure out your emotional state. So imagine if it senses that you're stressed. It could respond by dimming the lights, maybe playing some calming music, or even suggesting a meditation app.
That's a level of personalization we haven't really seen in home devices before. But how does Ballie actually learn all of this stuff? The articles mention adaptive learning, but what does that actually mean for a robot?
Well, it means that Ballie is always learning. And it's constantly refining its behavior based on how it interacts with you and its environment. I mean, one of the experts we read even said it felt smarter, as if it were capable of learning on the go. So think of it like this. Every time you interact with it, every task it completes, every adjustment you make, it all helps Ballie become more in tune with your needs and preferences.
So it's not just working from a static set of pre-programmed instructions. It's actually evolving and adapting as it gets to know you better. That's a huge leap from the basic, task-oriented robots we've seen before. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What can Ballie actually do around the house?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Imagine coming home to a robot that not only welcomes you, but can also handle a whole bunch of tasks, making your life a little bit easier and your home a little bit more efficient. Let's start with home security cams. Ballie can actually act as like a mobile security camera, going around your house and sending you alerts. If it sees anything unusual, it's almost like having a little robotic watchdog that never sleeps.
That's a great point. I mean, home security is a big concern for a lot of people these days, but Ballie's role goes beyond just keeping an eye on things, right?
Right. It can also take care of all those little things that we tend to forget about. So imagine this. Ballie reminding you about appointments or medications, even reminding you to pick up milk on your way home from work.
It sounds like Ballie could be incredibly helpful for people who need a little extra support, like elderly family members, for example.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most exciting things about Ballie Series 2 is how it could help older adults. It can give them reminders, help them stay in touch with loved ones through video calls, and even call for help if there's an emergency like a fall.
Those are really important features for people who want to stay in their homes as they get older. Ballie could really give them a sense of security and independence so they can, age in place more comfortably.
Yeah.
But what about the rest of us? The people who just want a little help around the house. Can Ballie do any chores?
Let's just say you might not need a cleaning service anymore. Ballie can do basic chores like wiping up spills, loading the dishwasher, even helping with laundry. Of course, it's not going to completely replace a human for the more complicated stuff, but it can definitely make things easier.
Oh, I can already see people fighting over who gets to load the dishwasher if Ballie's around to help. But let's zoom out a bit and talk about Ballie's ability to work with all the other smart devices in our homes. The articles really highlighted Ballie's integration into that smart home ecosystem. So what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, this is where Ballie really shines. Think of it as like the conductor of your smart home orchestra. It can talk to and control all your other devices, from lights and thermostats to your security system and entertainment setup. Imagine you wake up in the morning, you say good morning to Ballie, and it automatically adjusts the lights, starts your coffee, and even queues up your favorite podcast.
Wow, that's impressive. But is it actually easy to use? We're not all tech wizards.
That's a good point. But luckily, Samsung made sure Ballie is accessible to everyone. The interface is really intuitive, even for people who aren't that comfortable with technology.
So you're saying there's no need to worry about a steep learning curve?
Not at all. Ballie is designed to learn your habits and preferences. So the more you use it, the more personalized and seamless the experience becomes.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about all the amazing things Ballie can do, helping with chores, providing support for older adults, and how it fits into that whole smart home world. But I think the big question is, where do we go from here? What does Ballie Series 2 tell us about the future of home robotics?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think Ballie Series 2 is a pretty clear sign that robots are moving from science fiction to an essential part of our lives.
You're saying robots are no longer a novelty, but something we can expect to see in most homes soon.
I think that's exactly where we're headed. Ballie has set a new standard for what a home robot can be. It's not just about automating tasks anymore. It's about improving our lives and making our homes more comfortable, more efficient, and more supportive.
So we're shifting from that, robot as a gadget idea to robot as a companion.
Exactly. And as AI and robotics keep advancing, we can expect even more sophisticated robots. Robots that understand our individual needs, that know what we prefer, and that fit seamlessly into our daily routines. It's like having a personal assistant who can also help you tidy up and make sure you don't burn dinner.
That sounds pretty good to me. But we should be realistic too. There are some potential concerns as well, right? Some people might not be comfortable with a robot that's constantly learning and adapting to their behavior. And then there are the privacy and data security issues.
And what about jobs? Could this kind of technology lead to job losses?
Those are all valid points. Like with any new technology, there are always potential downsides and things we didn't expect. It's really important that we think about these issues carefully and responsibly as we move forward. We need to make sure that robots are developed and used ethically, with transparency, user control, and data security as top priorities.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we integrate robots into society and considering both the benefits and the risks.
Exactly.
It's a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of.
Yeah.
Developers, policymakers, consumers, ethicists, everyone.
I totally agree. Technology should empower us, not control us. But let's shift gears a little and talk about the role of companies like Samsung in all of this. Where do you see them fitting into this robotic revolution?
Well, Samsung has definitely put themselves at the forefront of this field. With Ballie Series 2, they've shown that they're committed to innovation, to making robots user-friendly, and to finding practical ways to use robots. They're not just building robots, they're building an entire ecosystem.
So they're not just dipping their toes in the water, they're going all in on home robotics.
Exactly, and that's really exciting to see. They have the resources, the expertise, and the vision to really push this field forward. I expect we'll see them continue to innovate and develop even more advanced robots in the coming years.
So we can probably expect more innovation, more personalization, and maybe even more specialized robots, designed for specific tasks or environments.
I think that's very likely. We might see robots that are dedicated to certain areas of the home, like the kitchen, the garden, or even the home office. And as AI gets smarter, those robots will become even more intelligent and intuitive.
This all sounds really promising, but I have to admit I still have some questions. For example, could we become too reliant on these robots? Could they, in a way, start to take over certain parts of our lives?
I think that's a natural concern. We've all seen those sci-fi movies where robots take over the world. But I think it's important to remember that robots are tools. They're here to help us, not replace us.
So it's about finding a balance between using technology to our advantage and maintaining our own independence and control.
Exactly. It's a partnership, not a takeover.
That's a good way to think about it. It seems like Ballet Series 2 is more than just a cool new gadget. It's a glimpse into a future where robots are helpful companions, are capable assistants, and maybe even, dare I say, our friends.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. Ballet Series 2 represents all the incredible possibilities that are out there. It's a reminder that the future of robotics is bright, innovative, and full of potential to improve our lives.
Well, that's a pretty inspiring note to end on. But before we wrap up, I have one final question for you and for our listeners. So if you could have a Ballie in your home, what would be the first thing you'd trust it with? And what about this whole robot thing makes you the most excited or maybe a little nervous? We always love hearing what you think.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how these robots will actually fit into our lives. Is it all about convenience? Or is there something more, like a sense of trust? Maybe even companionship?
You know, it's funny you should mention companionship, because that came up in a few of the articles we read, this idea that robots could help people feel less lonely, especially folks who live alone or maybe don't get out much.
Yeah, that's a side of robotics that people don't always think about.
Yeah.
But it has huge potential. Think about how a robot like Ballie could change things for an older person, someone who might be feeling isolated, or even for people who just like having a little company around.
Yeah, it's not just about having someone to talk to, it's about having a presence that feels real, something that responds to you. And Ballie, with its ability to understand emotions, it seems like it was designed with that in mind.
Exactly. It goes beyond just doing tasks. It's about social interaction and emotional intelligence. It's a really fascinating area, and I think we're only just beginning to explore it.
It's definitely a lot to think about, and I bet this is a conversation that'll keep going as this technology gets more advanced and as it becomes a bigger part of our lives.
I agree. This is a turning point for robotics, and it's amazing to see it happening.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Ballie Series 2 and the future of home robotics. It's been a really interesting look at this technology, all the potential benefits, and the ethical stuff we need to consider.
It's been great talking about all this with you. I can't wait to see what happens next in this field.
Me too. But for now, we'll leave you with that question we asked earlier. What would you trust Ballie with in your home? And what makes you excited or maybe a little cautious about all this? Keep thinking about those questions as you explore this whole new world of home robotics. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking ahead.